We are live. My name is Dr. Tovah Goldfine, and from my heart and home to your heart and home, from my star in the galaxy, good afternoon, good evening. We are international, reaching all corners of the world. This is TMS Roundtable Recovery, where each week we welcome leaders and practitioners and doctors and movie directors and authors and scientists and recovered individuals who are reshaping their lives from chronic pain and autoimmune disease using these neuroplastic and mind-body methods. Tonight, I'm joined by Dr. Rachel Hollander, a board-certified family physician who has been in practice since 2011. And Rachel spent almost, hear this, a decade, 10 years experiencing her own stress-related symptoms while serving as a primary care provider. You can't imagine that conflict. This personal struggle led her to study mind, body, and neuroplastic medicine, where she discovered a new way of understanding chronic symptoms and a new path to help patients. She went on to create Hollander Holistic Health, where she now guides patients and clients for all ages from anywhere in the world. She guides them through recovery from chronic pain, long COVID, and other neuroplastic symptoms. Her work is grounded in compassion, science, lived experience for sure, and a commitment to helping people reclaim their lives by teaching the brain and nervous system a new way forward. Rachel, it's an honor to be rubbing shoulders with you. I'm so excited to talk to you. And so let's start the dialogue. I really would like my listeners to hear your story, because, when we meet a doctor who's been to the abyss and back, we really want to hear
Yeah,
from you. All the details, please share.
I'd be happy to. And I'll try to give the slant on the spirit part of things, which I don't normally do, but that's what today's talk is about. So, it was really about 8 years, but almost a decade of chronic repetitive motion, hand, wrist, arm pain that I developed in my primary care work as a physician. I was working about 60 hours a week and just working really fast paced. And over the years, I just saw that it was directly related to work. I didn't exactly, think of it outside the structural realm at the time. But I really tried to go down my work hours, which luckily my employer allowed me to do, and I lifted weights. But I didn't do everything that most doctors, including myself, sometimes suggested patients to do. Like I didn't get a nerve conduction study quickly. I did physical therapy, and it was thought I had thoracic outlet syndrome, which is rare, but it's not everything really made sense. But I just knew that I needed to work less. I had seen, many other patients who had had surgeries and didn't get better or got worse after similar types of things. So I really tried to avoid that. But a year and a half after the pandemic began, I had such pain and weakness in my arms that I couldn't go on. And I was using AutoClick software and dictation software, and I just couldn't go on at work. And so I had to leave work suddenly, which was very distressing. I didn't say goodbye to anyone other than just tell my employer I couldn't come back. So with that distress, I developed heart palpitations and difficulty
Whoa.
swallowing, and I fainted, and I lost
Oh,
10 pounds in a short period of time. And over all this time, I saw almost 2 dozen different types of medical or health or mental health practitioners, alternative or traditional, and no one could really say or speak to me about, even if had an inkling that there was something larger going on there in terms of my mind and spirit. No one could say anything. So I actually y- I had an intuition that something more was at least related in terms of lack of meaning and needing to find a connection with my inner self, with spirit. And so after I'd left work and I was just hanging out at home, this is in California, I read a lot of books on philosophy and spirituality, some rooted in religion, whether Judaism, Buddhism, or Christianity, and others completely non religious spiritual writings. And I think that really set me up to heal. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
about
I just
eight
wanna
months,
interrupt for,
yes,
like, but at this point, at this point is, I guess it's a few years in and you're not working and you're reading. I mean, are you thinking, w like, what was going on emotionally? What was
yeah,
how just share with, like, how you weren't just like, "Oh, everything's okay." It's like, what was happening deeply? Like, all of a sudden you're working, you're functioning, you're fine, and then boom.
yeah.
So what do you think at that point in, like, maybe the first couple of years was going on in your mind or in your deep unconscious mind and your thoughts?
Yeah, actually, it was since 2014 that I started to have this pain and weakness. But even in 2017, years before I had to leave work, I started to read spiritual writings. I felt like something was missing. I had disillusionment in the type of practice, the way I was trained, in terms of, how we just give a medication to someone when clearly there's a lot more in their life that is contributing to their symptoms. We just weren't trained how to deal with that. So yeah, there's a lot of disillusionment there. Um, about 8 months. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but about yeah. Go ahead.
No, what you're saying is that there was a conflict was set up. You were
Yeah.
going to work, playing the doctor role, and you weren't really believing in it. And
Right.
there's the first conflict. So go
That
ahead.
is. That is. So I built up this identity, ego. We all have ego. It's identity, it's automatic responses, it's emotional reactions. And I just built up this identity that this is what I do, yet inside I wasn't believing it. And I tell every client and patient of mine that neuroplastic symptoms develop when our experiences or behaviors don't align with our needs, beliefs, or values. That's really at
Beautiful.
the root.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Can you say that
So
again? Can you say that
yeah,
again?
yeah, I have it so easily at the top of my head because I say it to everyone. So neuroplastic symptoms come about when our experiences or behaviors don't align with our needs, beliefs, or values. Yeah, so it
And
really speaks
can we
to
say
spirit.
because there's a conflict and the brain
Yeah.
perceives that as a threat and
Yeah.
begins to protect you and then the cycle.
As a
So
danger
continue.
signal.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, continue.
Yeah, so
Wow.
our symptoms are really trying to tell us something. Our symptoms can be a blessing, can be there to help us if we listen to it and we don't try to fight it. Um, and so here I was, months after I'd left work, and then my mom in Little Rock, Arkansas, where I've been lately, had a fall and broke her pelvis. And so I flew out suddenly to help my parents. I just flew out with a carry-on suitcase, so I left all the trappings or normal day to day of my previous life. I no longer had a job. My husband came out for a week, but then he was back in California. So I was separated physically from my husband. A cat had recently died, and another cat, my husband found a new home for because we were going to move formally to Little Rock. But yeah, I had just a carry-on suitcase. I didn't even have things that look like they're part of me. We think about our clothes and our books and our whatever as our identity. And so I had really left that identity behind, although I was in my parents' home, which had its own identity. And it was easier for me to look at that like with distance and say to myself, I'll take this part of it, but I'm gonna let go of this part. This part didn't help me.
Yeah.
So that was very stressful though, coming back and helping my mom and being an advocate for my mom when she was in the hospital and rehab facility for about a month and then helping her recuperate at home. And here I was still with chronic pain, even though I hadn't used a computer in almost a year, still with chronic pain and
Interesting.
weakness, could barely drive, could barely lift a dish to make a meal. But I knew I needed community and I knew I needed something more meaningful. And so I was still reading books on spirituality, which I'll speak to a little bit more in a moment. And I joined a hiking group and I joined a Unitarian Universalist church, which is called a church, but it's not actually based in Christianity. It's not based in any one religion, but takes teachings from all major religions so that people can really explore their own spirituality. So that was very healing for me to have that community. And I encourage that everyone, especially when you have these symptoms, but otherwise too, to find some type of community to help you heal.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Very important.
I thought I would share just a few snippets from a journal that I kept in, and this is from in between when I'd left work and before I came to Little Rock. Um, and I think it speaks to what a lot of patients and clients are feeling when they have these symptoms, and it speaks to the spirit or lack of. So I said, I don't want to live. My mind's body and spirit are out of alignment. I was speed, fluster, hollow at work. That feeling of choking your throat off to prevent sobbing. And I actually had difficulty swallowing, which I think goes together. I had lack of breathing, whirlwind, empty. I wasn't ever in the present. I had stopped growing in my work and life. The only way for me to rest was for my body to break down. I'm just starting to see myself for who I really am. For the first time, I can share my emotions with others, and I must be true to myself. So, yeah, it was deep into it. So that was, they talk about you got to see the darkness to then see the light. And I was in the dark of the dark for me at that point. I had set up surgical consultations around the country for people specialized in thoracic outlet syndrome. And I was really trying to stave that off for a long time. But incidentally, before I ever saw anyone to consult for surgery, I met someone incidentally at the Unitarian Universalist Church on Labor Day, ironically, a party on Labor Day. Someone told me about Dr. John Sarno, the pioneer of mind body medicine, and I looked him up later and it led me to Dr. Howard Schubiner's
Yeah, I just
website.
think they're these little John Sarno angels.
Yeah,
It's like
that's what I
like
call the person who told me about him. I
yeah,
call her my
and
angel.
I'd like to say that the angels, I mean, there's a lot of information around, and I think that you were open. It
Yes.
was more like, I mean, I believe in fate and that was like just how that happened was mind blowing. What you, because you're just going to a party.
Yeah.
You were open and you were like, there's got to be something maybe more. I mean, I'm doing my due diligence. I'm going to get surgery, but there's got to be something more.
Yeah,
So I just want to honor
I
you
wasn't
for that.
holding myself up at home. I was trying to get out. Luckily, I didn't have chronic fatigue. I didn't have problems with my legs, so it made it easier to get out. But when I'd get out, I didn't have the pain in the same way that I'd have at home when my ruminations were going on in my head. So I watched these an hour's worth of free videos from Dr. Schubiner on his website unlearnyourpain.com, and I just knew, it just spoke to me so much, especially after all this time of my symptoms, but also the thousands of patient cases of what I now understand to be neuroplastic. It just all made sense. And so the next day, my pain was 80% gone.
No, no
Yes, and
way.
I was like putting my mom's walker in the trunk, and we were driving. I was driving with no problem to take her to the river to walk, and no one I talked to, my husband, my parents, they're like, "Oh, this is just another stretch that she's found that seems to help. We'll see what happens with this." But I knew I was out of the woods, and I did do the brain retraining over weeks to months, and it took me a year or so to get back to work to really build that confidence.
Yeah, I just want to say, look, I'm a chiropractor many, many years, and thoracic outlet syndrome is very severe. I mean, something is very encroached upon in a set of nerves that come across your clavicle and, from the neck, which is the main generator, but something to compress like that and for them to label you. thoracic outlet syndrome. It's very intense. I'm thinking it's not really thoracic outlet, so we have to be careful about the labels the doctors give us because that's super intense and usually happens from an injury or severe compression, in your sternoclavian, clavicular joint. And so I'm thinking, like, what kind of diagnosis was that? And then 80% better, you're decompressed. So, first of all, what the body can do under threat, and then what the body can do with safety and calm. So, I'm just blown away by even that part. So, continue. So, you're 80%
Yeah.
better, and then what? And then what?
Yeah, and actually just speaking to the thoracic outlet syndrome, so I've had a lot of time to look back on it and think about, well, was it just in my brain that it was generating this pain? But I look at it really like our brain creates tension in the body. It creates real physiologic change in the body. And, I look at it like it was creating like someone might have neck tension, muscles of the neck or the back, and the muscles are tense and tight. I look at it like that's where it was for me because of all the use I'd had, the brain connected the stress there, understandably. And, when I kept ruminating that I had a structural problem and that I was, unempowered to get better myself, it just continued to always be tense, except when I was completely distracted or on vacation or, until it was just like this identity crisis kind of thing, and it was just
Yeah,
always tense. So,
yeah,
yeah, I think you're totally on with what you're saying. So, yeah, so I got better over time and, I took, I did a mind body certification course with Dr. Schubiner, gradually went back to my trigger, which was using a computer, went back to a different
interesting.
type of job. So it wasn't exactly the type of job I had because there was spiritual dissonance there. It was a home-based medical care service where I felt like what I was doing was still appropriate in the traditional realm. It was trying to help people who have very clearly non-neoplastic conditions, keep them out of the hospital, help them at
Yeah,
home. So
yeah,
that made sense. And I was driving to their homes, and it was a lot less computer use, which made me feel more human. And, so it's not just this computer trigger, but yeah, the whole
yeah,
realm of what do you
yeah.
believe in what you're doing?
Yeah, yeah. No, it's very important because we meet a lot of people that are not working. I mean, and they're professionals and can't work for various reasons. And my first reaction is, we got to get you back to work because your brain is thinking that something is wrong with you. Your brain's protecting you even more so because you've trained it that you can't work in a, in the job that you love. Or so it's a very interesting that you went back to work right away, even though it was
Oh, no,
just
it was a year or so.
a year.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Yeah.
a year, but you went back right away, closely after, trusting, like, let me face the computer, which is my trigger. Let me jump from the chair, even though I'm scared of flights. I'm going to jump from the chair and meet my fear.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Yeah, and
also,
it took that gradual exposure where before I even, got my Arkansas medical license, I was testing the typing, to see if I could do it. And you got to go back very small, just a few minutes at a time, associate with positive affirmations, that there's nothing wrong inherently with my body, that I can do this. I had, nice music playing. I'd play the piano before and after to tell
wow,
myself that, you know what, this enjoyable activity causes no problems.
excellent.
And it really never did until I was just, it was in the darkest of the dark,
Right,
that
right,
playing the
right.
piano would be fine. And I
Wow,
play
wow.
vigorously, not that I'm a virtuoso, but,
Yeah.
I'm intermediate and I'd play with feeling, and it'd be no
Wow, no, and
problem.
you're using your whole body, you're using your
Yeah.
torso. So so then at that point, you're working, and are you doing other somatic methods that are helping you, meet your symptoms? Were you symptom free? Where were you at emotionally and in other parts?
Yeah, by the time I got to working again, and it was actually just over a year from learning about the model. So it was like a couple years from leaving work
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
But yeah, I had done a lot of Dr. Meditate guided meditations for healing. Specifically, the time traveler one, I really liked. It helps
J
you
Yes,
visualize going back to
yes,
yourself at a previous time in
yes.
life and providing yourself safety signals. So I
Love it.
imagined going back to myself at, in the dark evening of the clinic, still there, still working, distressed, and taking myself away, but actually first burning down the clinic, and then taking myself away and jumping off a cliff into the, cliff diving and having fun at the ocean together. So that was very healing for me. And I know not everyone can dive quite into the time traveler visualization at first because they may have quite a bit more traumatic situations where they need to kind of build up to that. But that was healing for me. And I learned transcendental meditation, which I practice regularly, very similar to mantra meditation, which I explain on my website. Um, and just really set boundaries for myself. I did a lot of introspection about why my personality is the way it is and what aspects of my personality are not helpful for me. And here I was back in my parents' home still. I still have been living with my parents. So I got to learn for myself what I really appreciated about them, but what I also did wanted to set aside. And so I was very clear with people around me about boundaries, about what was right for me and what was not.
So important. So very important, and not everybody can go back to their parents' home and
Yeah.
come to terms
And not
with
everyone
and
wants
meet.
to. I mean, I had a fairly good childhood. There's definitely things in my childhood that contributed to me getting set up for neuroplastic symptoms, but I have very loving parents, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, no, and look, and you were able to help her and help yourself in the same home, in the same town, um, and I like to believe that we can help ourselves anywhere. We don't need the external, because it's really about you. You are the root, you are the tree, and you are the problem and the solution. So, you were meditating, were you journaling, were you
Yes,
exercising?
definitely journaling, reading more spiritual books. Yeah, I was going, rollerblading, which I just love. I was biking again. I was in the hiking group, and that continued to give me community and the Unitarian Universalist Church. So, and with that church, again, it's not rooted in any one religion, but there was a speaker, a guest speaker one week who really provided, she was a poet from Hot Springs, Arkansas. Kai Coggin is her name. And I want to credit her for giving a bit of a debriefing of the pandemic. I will acknowledge that my experience in the pandemic as a health professional was nothing like many others' experience. And I've heard really, really horrendous stories with patients and clients about their experiences during the pandemic, whether they're medical professionals or not. But this poet really gave me the debriefing that I needed and that I'd never had. So she reviewed how they had a poetry open mic night every week, even for decades, and they still continued it on Zoom, and how there was this healing aspect of even just like putting your hand up to the camera, feeling like you're together, that you're not alone. Um, and it was the first time in public I'd ever had tears stream down my
Yeah,
face, and
wow.
I wasn't ashamed to do that.
Wow. Wow, that's really, really beautiful to share that, and I think the whole long COVID thing is something we have to come to terms with because it's like a beast for some people. It's like the monster in some people's lives, and I don't want people to feel and to continue to believe that they're not a victim of COVID, whether it's the shot or the flu, and that their body was well before it and their body can be well after it. And it's a process. And of course, we're meeting so many people that are recovering and in recovery. And but there's still thousands of people on these pages in Facebook who are suffering. And it's not enough that we can say, yeah, yeah, you can do it. It's not enough that I have a whole playlist of people that are recovering. It's not enough. It's this like heartfelt depth of like, these people that feel like they're a victim of their body, and now we're gonna get to the spiritual part because the body, has an innate intelligence. And I learned this, 40 years ago in chiropractic school, and I was like, "Well, this is kinda cool." I'm happy to understand like that. Like, it wasn't even related. I wasn't even, in Israel yet, and I wasn't involved in neuroplastic work, and I wasn't really connected to God in the way that I am now. But and this is what Joe Dispenza talks about. This is what all the neuroscientists talk about, and there is an intelligence, constantly striving for your best interest. And to all the long COVID people that'll hear this, you are one of these angels, and you're one of these pieces of God and parts of God and sons and daughters of God. And your immune system is struggling. It's falling and needs to get up. That's all. It's not down. It's not dead. It's not gone. It's not permanent. It's just in transition. And so there's this innate intelligence that's constantly striving for your good. And that has nothing to do, we haven't talked about the brain yet and the protection and the punishment or the, the safety. We're talking about a body that's everything, all the systems are constantly working to keep you alive, no matter what you do to it, no matter how many times you don't duck when the ball comes and get hit. Your body's always, whether it's an inflammatory response, which is healing, whether it's a scar, which is healing, whether it's, a friend of mine who healed from cancer. She had a tumor so big around her heart, her body created a bypass to her brain because the tumor cut off her cervical artery. I mean, her body created a bypass. I mean, we've heard these stories before.
A bypass vessel, you're saying?
About
A
yeah,
blood
like,
vessel.
come on,
Wow.
like, so she's like, "I'm gonna question my human body," and she actually went for chemo, and she decided to call it chemo ecstasy because she was like, "I'm gonna be in control of what's happening to my body," and this is the Bernie Siegel, this is the many authors that we can name here. This is The Body Keeps the Score, this is When Your Body Says No, Gabriel Maté. Like, this is the doctors, some of them have been through it, but that are talking about the truth. And, I always say I'll go to the gallows, they'll hang me, but I do believe deeply in the body's innate ability to heal. And here's the God piece. So they taught us that your innate intelligence is connected to a universal intelligence. And then I was like, this is chiropractic school. I'm paying thousands of dollars, and they're talking about God.
This was in your
And
school?
this was
In
the philosophy.
in Israel or somewhere?
No, no, I went to school in South Carolina
Okay.
and, 40 years ago, but they were
Interesting.
talking about this connection, because it's a very philosophical philosophy. So even medicine's a very philosophical philosophy. Do no harm. I mean, but
You
like
did a lot of harm. Yeah.
the doctor with the black box who's he goes into his garden, the person's garden, and brings some herbs and heals the person. So the point is, there is a divine intelligence. I mean, what's keeping our nervous system going? What's keeping my heart ticking? What's keeping my stomach digesting? I mean, I'm not telling you what to do.
Yeah.
This is something mind-boggling.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I cannot help but believe, as a doctor who knows a lot of medical and science and has studied it and then studied it even more with the neuroscience, with the neuroplasticity, with the doctors that are our teachers, uh, I have to, and for the right people, and on this show tonight, we're talking about the spiritual aspect, which I have to say that the people that I've met that's healed cancer and MS, which my own mother, died a very terrible death from after 25 years of suffering. Um, People that have had MS have gotten out of the bed and chronic pain and tumors that have shrunk. Those people had a God figure in their life. And I saw the common denominator. And I just say to people, if it's an option for you to bring in a divine source, it can be nature, it can be God. I mean, God is everything. We're not talking about a person, talking about his concept. So why don't you
Yeah,
Continue
I
to
totally
listen.
agree, and for people who it kinda turns them off maybe to use words like God, I mean, it's really interchangeable with spirit, consciousness, awareness, so the more you can get in touch with the moment, being aware in the moment, using your senses, using your body to be present, to integrate your mind with your body and not just be lost in ruminations of the mind. That is all connecting with spirit. And spirit really refers to the life force, vitality, the idea of breath, inspiration, inspire, breath.
Y Yeah,
So yeah, it's if someone would rather not use the word God, they could say the source, they could say universal being, universal consciousness, or just spirit, because all that is really interchangeable. And then the
beautiful.
spirit connects with the mind, which is the conscious thinking part of our brain, and it's connected to the physical and spiritual world. Our body is really the vehicle to move around and take in information through our
Beautiful.
senses. But then the spirit is part of all this and needs to be, or things
Yeah,
break down, things don't work
yeah,
right. So,
yeah,
spirituality contributes to religion. It's not synonymous. Religion is really about having specific creed or beliefs, but someone can be very spiritual, connected to their center, their inner self, the universal nature, community, without being part of any particular set of religious beliefs.
yeah. No, very important what you're saying. It's very we're not talking about religion here, we're talking about, um, spiritual and the words you gave, and reminded me that we learned this in school, and we're seeing it now with the vagal theory, with the vagus nerve, that when we take a deep diaphragmatic breath, a deep breath, inhaling and exhaling, we are activating not only all these chemicals in our body. I mean, we create cannabis, we create opioids, we create oxytocin, we create all the different chemicals we need that we pick up we get at the pharmacy right inside of our body. It's like a drugstore, it's a drugstore. And I learned this in chiropractic school. And we activate that as well as the vagus nerve, which they call, is the wanderer. It's the nerve that has branches to every organ, tissue, and gland and connect. And we activate that with a deep breath and bringing calm and safety. And so that's where the power goes back to the people. I
Mhm.
mean, we're we're not here drumming up business. We're giving you the power.
Yeah, we're
Take it.
guides. We're not giving you a
Messengers.
medication necessarily,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
every person is going through their own journey and is a self-healer. And the body is way smarter than any of us, and when we try to control it, and we can take control in terms of being empowered to do things in a spiritual centered way, but if we try to over control by feeling like I must do this, the self pressure, that actually propagates these types of
Yeah.
neuroplastic symptoms.
Yeah. Very good point. So we have a question here. We're going to answer a question. Can you see the question,
Yes.
Dr. Rachel?
Yeah. Yeah. Help. I've lost the fear and got rid of so many symptoms, but the neck pain I can't shake off. It's driving me crazy and lots of frustration. Yeah, at some point, certain symptoms can become it's just a vicious cycle that it's learned in the nervous system as much as you're aware of the neuroscience and as much as maybe you try the affirmations. Sometimes really changing up your patterns in life that are associated or not with the neck pain, consider, are you filling your battery more than you're draining it in terms of spirituality and just joy and peace? Uh, are you ruminating a lot on the neck pain? Are you finding ways to get yourself out of your head, get community, do flow experiences, meditate to get yourself out of your head, all those things that help us get in touch with spirit. Maybe there's more of that that you can do and set more boundaries. And maybe there's other things that you can let go of so that it's not draining your battery. So it's all a balance of safety signals more than, or not a balance, but definitely you want more safety signals over danger
Yeah.
signals.
I love it. I love your answer, and I hope that's helped, and I kinda just I wanna dive into hit that your words. I mean, you've lost the fear, and I'd kinda wonder if you've m the fear is obviously still there because 'cause you're pissed off and you're frustrated, so there's this fear that it won't go away, but maybe if we meet the fear in a most compassionate and loving way, because the fear has been created, it's like a false fear, and it's maybe some unconscious, like, you're still really fearful and that maybe you can meet it in a more compassionate way. This last symptom, it's interesting because it's that, like, holding out. They say, like, the brain is just holding out because it's still perceiving some kind of threat. So, you can't shake it off, and it's driving you crazy. So there's now you're pissed. Now you're really, really pissed at yourself. And I can imagine, I mean, we have enormous empathy. This is not about, criticizing you or judging you, but your body is knocking on your door through your neck and saying, "Please, I need something." And I think it's our job as coaches and your job as the doctor and you to figure out what's the threat.
Yeah. Is there some
And
way you're not being authentic to your needs, values, or beliefs? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Patience and repetition, repetition, repetition. And how amazing that you got rid of many of your symptoms. I mean, what a hero. How amazing is that? Like, where's the cheerleading for
Yeah.
that? Come
Note your
on.
wins. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and maybe you're just being a little bit like, "Well, I got rid of that, now what's wrong with me?" No! You have a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant body, and these symptoms are just protecting you from another brilliant part of your body, which is your brain, which is doing an amazing job of protecting you, and so don't give it so much power, your brain, it's just doing its job.
Yeah.
So, let's talk a few minutes about I want to go back to the spiritual part of this because we can go very deep with the body. Houses the body's like a house. It's like a temple, and um, we have this generator, this master generator. That's this nervous system and the spinal cord and the brain, and it's this huge generator keeping us functioning. And it's fascinating, and, I think bringing up this woman who healed from cancer with the big tumor, she felt that her way to understand why her body got sick was to learn everything about cancer, and that really helped her, and she wrote a book, and she teaches a course, to people with cancer, and some of the people, they don't even wanna say the word, but here's about meeting the fear and meeting yourself,
Yeah.
and so part of it's this relationship with your body and appreciating it and like the title tonight was pain is not a punishment. And so how do we, Dr. Rachel, how do we meet our symptoms and I get lambasted for this one and have a love affair with our body? I mean, how do we do that?
Yeah, and I tell patients and clients it is all a practice. So, and people go, I do too. I still have little symptoms that come and go, and I just have to get back to the right practices. So we have to keep practicing. You're asking, how do we get in touch with our body? Remind me your question.
Well, yeah, like no, I said a lot, and I said it fast. I believe that we need to love
Mm,
our body
yeah.
through this process, and we need to love listen to this, we need to love the parts of us that we're frustrated about.
Uh-huh.
We need to love the part we wanna shake off. We need to love even the part we don't like.
Mhm. Yeah, and being very present, like I think you said earlier. in the talk of being very present with your symptoms, being very present with your body, integrating your mind and body. Because when we try to steer away from it, from the mind, whether it's situations that happened in life, we both don't want to repress emotions, but we also don't want to. We want to confront it, process it, and that takes time. But then at some point, we want to get to the point where we are conscious and stepping back from automatic responses so that we are just more integrated, mind and
Yeah,
body.
yeah. Well, that's awareness. Observing, witnessing, recognizing, and awareness is a pause, and a pause is a breath, and a pause is a moment, and a pause is like, like during the day or even when you're triggered, just to even just be with that symptom, ask it what it's saying, and then maybe go to what possibly the feeling might be triggering, the amygdala to keep this body in threat mode. And, so I bring back, the God piece. I mean, just to even just stop for a minute and the compassion piece. And again, I'll ask the biggest psychiatrist, the biggest doctors, like, give me something big to give to my clients. And they'll be like, it's just about compassion. I'm like, yeah? Yeah, it's just about compassion. And then what do we do? Well, we treat ourselves like a puppy, like a little child. I'm like, is that it? Yeah, that's all. That's all you have to do. Be a butterfly on the wall of your childhood, says Dr. David Clark. And I'm like, okay, that's it. And so it's this humility, Dr. Rachel. It's this humbleness. And what is humble? And it's like that's this sort of quietness and what I call God or spirit or nature or breath. So I really love this conversation. I think I want to have it like more often. But let's answer a few questions. One second, I'll bring this question up. Let me just see if I can go. Hold on. One second. Okay, here you go. Yeah, this is could you see this question?
Yeah. Would you like me to read it
Yeah, yeah, but
out
there's a
loud?
question before that. One second. There's a question before Roseanne, but I'll get to you, Roseanne. I want to bring up this question. It was here first. Yeah.
Okay. I also have neck pain on the right and left sides, in the front radiating to the left and right abdomen, which feels like pressure, stabbing, burning after I had a fundoplication surgery. So, fundoplication surgery is for acid reflux. And maybe I can look back at oh, I see it. Okay.
Good.
So, the neck pain on both sides, radiating to both sides of the abdomen, with a lot of different qualities of the discomfort after that surgery. So I guess I'd step back a little bit because when people have that fundoplication surgery, they have it because of what is diagnosed as acid reflux, and that's really a neuroplastic symptom on its own. It can certainly cause some tissue damage if it's really serious, and maybe that's why you had fundoplication surgery. So maybe we wouldn't call it exactly neuroplastic, but it's stress related. Um, so I guess just stepping back to think, you know, big picture. But it sounds like you have what's called the symptom imperative, which I'm not sure who originally said it, whether it was Sarno or Dr.
Dr.
Schubiner.
Sarno. Dr. Sarno.
Yeah, where you have all these different symptoms. I'm not sure what happened first or next, but it's like your brain is knocking and then ringing the doorbell. I think that Dr. Schubiner says it this way, and then throwing a rock through the window that, it's in some way you're not meeting your authenticity. In some way, your experiences and behaviors aren't aligned with your values and needs and beliefs. And so your body, your brain is creating real physical symptoms in various places in your body, one after another or all at the same time, to try to scream, take care of me. I need
Yeah.
help. So I guess that's a big general answer to your
No,
question, but
yeah. No,
what do
and I
you
want to
think?
say to anyone who's had surgery, it's sad because surgery means you get better. Medicine means you get better. So this is partly the medical trauma that we're not going to talk about, but to have this empathy for yourself, this compassion, this belief that you had the surgery, they did the best they could. It's not failed. Your body, your brain, and your thoughts trump everything. And so here's an opportunity for you to say, I got the surgery, I went down the medical model, I need to meet myself with the most, you know, like, again, compassion from us to support you in every possible way that you can heal this. And yes, you're being challenged. And yes, it's not easy. And we have enormous empathy, especially Dr. Rachel and I. So, how can, this community support you, build you up, cheerlead you, and help you be your own placebo, your own doctor? And it's possible. So just stay with the possibilities, be enormously patient, understand that you expect it to be better. And, I'm going to suggest to watch a movie called Love Heals. I can send you the link. It's about a woman who had 2 failed spinal surgeries, and she met her pain in the most incredibly loving way, and that's sometimes what it's about. I know it sounds woo-woo, but love heals. So, I'm really happy you chimed in, and I hope that maybe some of this helped. I wanna go back to Rachel's question, Roseanne's original question, but I'm having trouble with yeah, there you go. Um
Okay. I believe my latest affliction may be from watching way too much world news. I've been there, by the way. Can high blood pressure also become a result, besides my leg pain, which started in my left leg and now in both, also hits previous areas severely, but for minutes, not months? Ugh. I also have an inner conflict with going from no spirituality to quote unquote new age and now Christianity. The struggle is real. I'm 67 and this has been going on and off since 18 years old. So,
Right.
wow, yes, the news. This was huge for me during the pandemic and political instability and local wildfire in my county. So, yes, high blood pressure is definitely stress related, and all the same types of interventions can definitely improve or normalize blood pressure. You mentioned you have leg pain, and it's now in both legs, and it's been going on for months. So, yeah, you've gone from no spirituality, you said, to new age and now Christianity. So it sounds like you're searching, um, and that's great, but maybe you're struggling, and that's your journey. And no one can tell you exactly what is going to be the exact answer for you, but I give you a lot of credit for searching, and I would just say continue to consider, in what ways are your values, needs, or beliefs not being met.
Yeah, and, how about the cheerleading for you, Roseanne, and how your body has passed these hills and you're still here to talk about it. And so part of it is it's sometimes it's in the struggle where we find the greatest gifts, and that's where, this is some of the quantum work, mental rehearsal, or the same thing with, the question before. Sometimes we have to visualize, visualization, imagination, that we are better, be the change you want to be. Visualize that you can have a few moments without these symptoms. Visualize what it's like to be hiking and, go through it in your mind and then walk around the dining room table and then take a walk to the park and back. So part of it is because the brain, of course, doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. And so this is a brain game. And the brain has direct communication with the autoimmune system and all the other systems. So this is a brain game. And I encourage you to, rather than keep studying and learning, to act. Dr. Brad Fettistow was on the show 2 weeks ago, and he he agreed. I mean, we have to act out these thoughts. We have to jump off a chair if we're scared of flying, rather before we go to, we have to practice and we have to teach our brain. And so part of it is, what are we all doing actively? Are we doing one stretch a day? Are we getting up and walking to the kitchen and back? Are we, I'm big on prayer and reading Psalms and, surrendering in a not I don't like the word surrender, kind of a letting go to have control. That's kind of like the Matrix, which is another spiritual energy. Like, and I believe in the placebo. And part of that are your thoughts and your actions. And I know you're probably doing all this, but guess what? We have to do it again and again and again. And then there's the authenticity. What's going on in your unconscious mind? Are there, we can be angry, we can be fearful, but is it a way that is not keeping your brain in threat mode? And so, I mean, you're 67 and there's been, 40 something years of your journey, but you have, I think 67 is middle age, by the way. That's another story. Oh, this could be another quantum theory is this is heavy and this is tough love, but there's a gift here. There's a gift in your healing journey. And how can you love yourself in the most incredible way of seeing that there's a message here, that you're not a victim of your body. This is other concepts that help people to move through this in a loving, compassionate way. What do you think about the gift
Yeah.
and the magic?
Yeah, and you spoke about, emotions, and so a lot of people have very big challenges that they've endured in life, and the brain and nervous system form automatic fear responses and repressed anger responses and these types of things. It takes becoming aware, second guessing your automatic emotional responses, second guessing your impulses to separate how emotions go straight to these nervous system to bodily symptom,
Yeah. Yeah.
issues. And so it takes acknowledging, at the grocery store what happened, but then also delving deeper and deeper into more difficult situations with acknowledging emotions, experiencing them, being present with them, and being able to express it in a safe, private way through bodily motions, vocalizations, being able to express it, journaling, guided meditations, and then
Yeah.
letting it go. Because if you harbor anger or um, it's usually anger, but if you harbor deep emotions from something, it's just hanging around there as a big danger signal and
Yeah.
continues to lead to
Yeah.
symptoms.
No, good answer. And to address Roseanne's comment, because I've had a number of shows recently go to the round table talking about like what to do when you're in the throes of the symptoms. Like, how do we live with the uncertainty? We're there in a moment of panic or stress, and we're so uncertain and we're so scared and we're so angry. And there's strategies and ways to do it. There's Doc Hanscom has an older, and I'll send you this, Roseanne, an older video, short YouTube about when you're in an anxiety attack. And you know what? Sometimes we have to just stop, take a pill. We're not telling you not to, we're bringing down your nervous system. Take the pill, take a smoke of a joint. I'm open to anything. You know, here's the question. You can hum, you can sing, you can absolutely affect your vagus nerve in that panic attack. You can breathe deeply when you're in the throes of it all. You can pray. I mean, I'm living in a country where there's enormous amount of threat, various times of our history. And part of it is we don't fight it. We're meeting a lot of the hostages, and they're talking about what they went through. And you know what? These hostages that came out and are not experiencing the depth of the PTSD that we thought they were going to experience is because they had God in their life. Now that's a different. They just knew that there was a bigger meaning for their being, taken hostage for 2 years. But more important is they stayed in the moment. They did practices every day that were consistent, and you can listen to some of these stories because there's stories of hostages all over the world that talk about what they did to come out of the darkness. And so part of it was their belief. So when you're in the throes of it, is your belief that you're not broken, Roseanne, the belief that you are not a victim of your body, that in the throes of it, your brain is protecting you. So it's this don't conflict with the resistance. Meet the resistance. fold into the resistance, lean into the resistance, which is Dr. Alan Abbas's book. I think that's the one he might have written with Dr. Schubiner. Um, so when you're in the throes of it, stop and pause and breathe. Let it pass. Don't become in it, like observe and witness. What do you say, Dr. Rachel?
Yeah, and you mentioned about uncertainty, and that really speaks to the idea of faith. You know, we think of faith in a religious context, but it can be in a spiritual
Yeah,
context.
beautiful.
It's about faith in your body that the messages it's sending you are what you need right now. And again, not having that resistance, meeting it, being present with it, not trying to fight it, but having faith that this mind body spirit route is the way to your healing in the long run.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I really, Dr. Rachel, we have to round up. It's on the hour. And I want to say to anybody that, first of all, this live broadcast is a recording tonight or tomorrow, and it'll be up on my YouTube channel, TMS Roundtable Recovery. Uh, in the details, Dr. Rachel Hollander's her website and her information, if you want to reach out to her, will be in there. If you have any questions, if anybody came on the broadcast late and hasn't gotten their questions answered, you can ask either myself or Dr. Rachel Hollander in there on the YouTube. We're a community that's so available and so open and so ready to kind of assist you on this journey and find you either the right coach or the right community or the right group. And that's number one. Number two, I think this is an important topic, and I would love to have like an every few weeks, every maybe 4 to 6 weeks to talk about the spirituality because it's like it's medicine. It's a different kind of medicine. It's a different kind of placebo, and I find it enriching and very very close to me. And I see that you have enormous experience and love for life and self and nature and God and the divine, and it brings in a lot of what I'm interested in the quantum and also, I think Dr. Strubiner is very spiritual, Dr. Mark Loomy is very spiritual, Dr. Hanscom will be on the show in a few weeks, Dr. Brad Fennis. I mean, we're all not this is not foreign to us. And I think the fact that you separated religion and spirit is very important, and the divine, and you talked about awareness and
Consciousness. Yeah.
consciousness. I love it. I love it. So,
Yeah.
can we plan to meet again
I would
and
love to.
part 2, a sequel?
Yes. Let me know.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I really appreciate you chiming in the middle of your day.
No problem.
It's evening for me. And again, this is what I want to say something about COVID. It took COVID to help me become international. It took COVID to help me become on the internet and to go to meet my fears of coming live each week and being able to do this and not have a heart attack and not have hives during each show. So I really, I found the gift in the pandemic, and it helps us all. We're all much more international. I mean, we should all take stock and make a lot of money. I mean, Zoom is an incredible thing, and we're now on this virtual studio, and I feel like COVID, because it was such a terrible time in our lives, but there are gifts in what it did for so many of us. And that's kind of how I want to leave this broadcast, and then I want you to say a few words, but it's an attitude that stops and sees something that's so terrible. At some point when everyone's ready, they can stop and see, where can I benefit? Where can I grow from this? What was the message for me? Because it was about my experience and my perception. That's what it comes down to. And that's very quantum, very experiential and spiritual about what is going on for me? How can I learn? How can I be the hero's journey? That's what this is about. And I feel very blessed to be a messenger. We call it a shaliach in Hebrew, a messenger here. And Dr. Rachel, I'm so grateful that you're a messenger with me tonight. And how do you want to leave the listeners? Would you like to say in closing?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Tova. Yeah, you are all a hero in your own hero journey, and we're here to be guides. And on my website, hollanderholistichealth.com, you can find a lot of the books that I got these ideas from. Again, they're from Christianity, Buddhism, Judaism, and non-religious texts. So you can look on the resources page under books on my website, and I have a blog. I try to make it somewhat inspirational, and there's going to be a book club that I'm going to start in the spring for anyone who's interested. It's all virtual. About the book, there's going to be a few books, but the one that I think relates here is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, a non-religious
Wow.
spiritual leader.
Wow. So beautiful to end like that. And wonderful idea about the book club. Beautiful to be a bridge for such amazing information. So to all the listeners, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And, we'll be here next week and you can reach out to Dr. Hollander. And wow, I'm blessed.
It was so nice to talk with you
Thank you
and the
so
people
much.
on Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. So we'll see each other again. This is not goodbye. This is till
Till
the next
later.
time.
Yes. All right.
Okay.
Thank
Have a
you.
wonderful, blessed
You
day.
too.
God bless.
Bye bye.
1 second.